So the way the Trump administration is going to approach the economy, they want less regulation. They want tariffs and less regulation, and they want more reliance on U.S. energy. Right? They want to drill more natural gas, more fracking, more drilling for oil, and then allow companies to work without regulations inhibiting their performance. This will boost the economy. You'll have more productivity. You have more American manufacturing. You have more things happening.
Yeah. So the two headline things you hear from them whenever they talk about this, the two headline things are, number one, growth. You just need faster growth. But by the way, it's the only way to resolve the long-term fiscal situation. It's the only way to resolve the debt. There's only two ways to do it. You can inflate your way out of it and end up in 1930s Germany with hyperinflation. Like that. That's one track you can get on, which is a very bad track, and you don't want to go there. Or you can grow faster, because if you grow faster, then your economy can catch up to the debt, and you can pay down the debt as you grow. And so they want to go for a higher rate of growth. And then the other thing is they want America to win. And this, my partner Ben and I were able to spend time with Trump this summer, and that was like his adamant thing he kept coming back, which is like, look, America has to win. And specifically what that means is America has to win in business and in technology and in industry generally globally. Like our companies should be the ones that win these, we should win global markets. Like our companies should be the global
How
standards.
can anybody be against that?
I happen to think that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
I know. I mean, obviously you're a wealthy man, and I am as well. But it's like, how could you not want that?
Yes. By the way, if you are in favor of a high level of social support, if you want there to be lots of welfare programs and food assistance programs, all these things, I would argue you also want that, because it's the growth that will pay for all the social programs, right?
Yes.
Like that's how you square the circle. That's how you actually have your cake and eat it too, which is like first your economy just generates a fountain of money through growth and economic success, and then you can pay for whatever programs you want. I actually don't personally I'm totally fine. Like set up all the programs you want, all the social spending you want, all the safety nets you want. And as long as it's easy to pay for because you're growing so fast, then everybody wins.
Yeah. Right? I mean, I've always said if I knew that I paid more taxes, people in the world, in this country would live better. I would do it.
Right, of course.
I just don't believe that they're good at spending it.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you're putting in this, if you've generated $35 trillion of debt and these are the results.
Yeah.
No. Like this is not the deal. And this is my friend that I talked about earlier. That was the point he made. It's just like, look, the deal has been broken. Like this is not the deal anybody signed up for. This is not how it's supposed to work. Everybody knows it.
And when you were talking about giving people social programs and giving them benefits, and then you could take that away at any moment. This was one of the big fears that people had about letting illegal immigrants into the country and moving them to swing states, which clearly happened, and also giving them a bunch of benefits, which clearly happened. Money, food stamps, housing, all that happened. Stuff that wasn't available to veterans, stuff that wasn't available to homeless people, wasn't available to the very poor of this country. All of a sudden, people who came here illegally got those things.
Right, that's right.
And the thought was, if you gave these people these things and you gave them a way better life. Look, if I was living in a third world country with a family and I knew that I could come to America and I could get a job, an actual job, and make money, and my family's going to definitely eat, I'll vote for whoever the fuck you want me to vote for. I don't care. My life is infinitely better than it was in this totalitarian shithole that I was in until I walked here. I'll do whatever you want. Like, I just want my family to survive, and I think everything's it's so much better than where I was. If I'm in some war-torn part of the world, it's so much better here. I don't care if the Democrats win or the Republicans. I'm in America. And if the Republicans didn't give me any money and they want to get me out, they want to deport me. But this nice lady, she gave me an EBT card, and I'm staying at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, and I can get a flight somewhere else if I want to go there. Oh, this is wonderful.
So that's how it starts, and there is a lot of that going on. But I will say one of the things that's interesting is it doesn't necessarily stick that way. And the sort of evidence for that is the sort of dramatic ramp up in the Hispanic vote for Trump.
Well, Hispanic people generally are very hard workers.
So this gets to the thing. So I'll just tell a quick story on this. So after the night after the 2016 election, like literally everybody I knew was just like completely traumatized. Like we were all just like completely freaked out. Everybody was shocked.
You were freaked out too?
Yeah, I was completely freaked out. Everybody was freaked out. Like I didn't expect him to win the nomination. I didn't expect him to win the race. Like, and then and the media is on like full hysterical blast, and it's the end of the world. And he's a Russian spy. And all this crazy stuff that we now know not to be true. It's just like full on. So a group of us went out to dinner at a restaurant in Palo Alto, and atmosphere was like a funeral. I mean, like everybody in the restaurant was just like despondent, like ready to slit their wrists. And so we're sitting there eating, and like the food doesn't taste good. And, it's just like can't taste the food, you can't taste the drinks. Like everybody's just depressed.
Wow.
And it gets this thing of like, my God, I can't believe that Trump, this, that, so if you see, racist and anti-Hispanic and all this stuff. And it was one of those moments where the young waiter, who's Hispanic young man in his 20s, one of those rare moments where he broke into the conversation at the table, right? But it was in context. It was like, oh, thank God, because like we're just depressing ourselves to death. So like, thank God he's going to say something. And he said, I think you guys are looking at it all wrong. He's like, my father thinks Trump is fantastic. My father came here as an immigrant, 30 years ago, built a life here, became a citizen, bought into the system, pays taxes, like raised a family,
mowing his lawn with a MAGA hat on.
he thinks this guy is great. He thinks this guy is fantastic, and he voted for him. And he just has, and then you've heard this before, but then it's like, and the thing that this guy said, the thing my father thinks is terrible is if other people are able to come here, they're able to cut in line. They didn't have to go through the process. They didn't have to prove anything. They're not bought into the system, right? They're able to jump in, and then they don't, and then they're not buying into the system. And part of it maybe they're not being accepted, but also part of it is they're not buying in. They're not assimilating. They're not becoming part of the of what makes America America. And in some cases, and by the way, in some cases, the criminals are coming across, and terrorists are coming across, and gangs.
Yes.
And it's like my father's not in favor of any of that. Right. My father wants to be part of a great society, of a great America, not some dysfunctional, basically just disaster zone. And I remember the group of us. It was my first glimmer of like, okay, I need to like completely rethink my whole sense of like how the world works. Because
that one conversation.
Yeah. Well, it was weird because it was like. So what happened with me is like I grew up in rural Wisconsin, which is now like completely Trump country. And so from like 0 to 18, like I completely understood the mentality, and I was always like explaining to my friends of like, no, like this is this is like a different place, and people think differently. And then somehow between the ages of like 18 and 40 or whatever, I just like forgot, and I became a Californian. Right? I became a fully assimilated Californian, and I was just like, well, of course the Californians are much more sophisticated and advanced than people where I came from, and so of course everybody in California has it figured out, and of course California is going to lead the country in all this thinking, right? And Trump was, for me, Trump 2016 was the wake up call of like, no, like that's just like completely that is such an impoverished worldview of how this country works and of how people think that it doesn't explain because you have to explain what happened, and then you have to like if you have some sense of being able to predict what's next, which is what I'm supposed to be doing for a living, it's what investing is supposed to be. It's like, okay, I got to rebuild my entire model of the world for like how this all works and how this whole system, how this country works. But it was that conversation that kickstarted it for me.